Starting. Oh, okay. Hi guys. Thanks for taking the time out taking the time out from your busy schedules to attend this info session. Well, this is the first info session we're gonna have in Malaysia, so yay. Let me just brief you on the whole structure of how this info session is gonna go. So first of all, we're gonna start with brief introductions from both sides. So Matt and I are gonna introduce ourselves. Those of you who attended today will introduce yourselves as well. Then after that, Matt is gonna do a job scope description, like an overview about what we do from a day-to-day basis. And after that, we're gonna open the floor up to discussions by starting with Q&As. So whenever you guys have any questions or queries or any concerns, you can just raise it there and then. So is that okay? Okay. So let me start. I'm Joey. I'm the NED for Malaysia, currently studying banking and finance in Help College. I'm also holding another portfolio. I'm also the DCD. So I'll pass it on to Matthew. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Matthew. I am the current Deputy National Executive Director of the Malaysian chapter. I am only holding one portfolio. I am studying at the University of Nottingham Malaysia campus, studying mechanical engineering. Yeah, so who wants to go first?
I can go first. Hi everyone, my name is Shalene and I'm currently studying Finance and Economics at Taylor's University, Malaysia.
Hi, I'm Sia, studying law at ATC in KL.
I'm Ellie, currently a third year psychology student at Help University.
And I'm Ideal, a third year student, biotechnology at University Science Malaysia, Penang campus.
That's great. All right, so if everyone's ready, I'll just begin the description for the job scope, right, of what we do. So overall, what happens in MY is that I'm sure everyone is familiar with the structure of ICMS in general. So we have the EXCO, the NEXCO, and the associates, right? So what Joey and I do, right? Essentially we do the same thing, even though we have like sort of different titles, right? But we do the same thing where, firstly, we manage the overall direction of the chapter, right? So we try to make sure that everything we do does go in line with the strategies that we have set out at the start of the year. It does follow what the 3 mottos are. And we make sure that everybody benefits from this also. Okay, so we'll go more into that later on. So after that, we monitor divisional activities, right? So as you can see, we have a lot of different divisions as you guys have gone through the JADP. So with all these different activities and everybody doing what they are capable of doing in their own scope of roles, right? We need to make sure that everything aligns to the strategy also, as well as mentioned just now, right? So everything that they do in terms of events, in terms of internal stuff or marketing, it all has to align to the strategy. It all has to be on time, follow a timeline, right? So that's the second thing. Thirdly, we have to understand expectations from all external parties. All right. So one thing that I think personally from both Joe and I, right, throughout the last 1 year, we've actually learned a lot about stakeholder management. All right. So in ICMS, we have a lot of different stakeholders. We have alumni, we have PNS, we have even our own internally, we have associates, and also externally the alumni PNS, as well as future ICMS applicants or future associates, right? So we have to actually understand every expectation that they have, right? So with the title of this role and also being in ICMS, right? ICMS has this, everybody sees ICMS as this student body that is very professional, right? So with this, there comes a lot of expectations from everybody where we have to constantly make sure that what we do isn't like the rest of the isn't like other student organizations, right? So that's for one of the expectations. Other expectations involve very simple things like sending out emails on time, having proper protocol, making sure that every associate is getting the development that they wish for, right? And thirdly, we we do the strategic planning of the international operations. So at every start of the council term, what happens is that the entire NEXCO has to strategize, right? We have to strategize what then for the next 1 year, what are the goals that we want to achieve. So within the 7th council, during the 7th council's year, it was RED. So it was refinement, engagement, and diversity. These were the 3 main things that we wanted to achieve. And these were our visions, right? Our visions and the missions that we carried out later on were through our divisions and through our associates. So I think generally that's it. We do a lot of things. Great. Okay, so does anybody have any questions for what we do?
I do.
Great.
Okay. Just wondering, because like during the induction day, you know, we went to like every department there is, and for CPS, actually, what Kok Fang say is that for all of the policies and constitutions, they've all only being done between the department, like him and other directors from other chapters. So is it like the NED and the DNED like involved in all this like policies and constitution management something? Do you guys like actually directly involved? Yep.
Joey, do you want to answer or do you want me to answer?
I think I can take this one.
Right.
So basically, within each division, CPS directors will have to liaise with the entire NEXCO team, set the goals or set the tone himself, him, ED as well, and then after it comes to policy making. So when they are, drafting, defining current policies, they're actually talking on behalf of the chapter, behalf of the whole team. In a way, CPS and job scope is roughly the same when it comes to policy making, but they're everything out to the detail, to the dot. We're just there to assist in terms of looking at the overall picture, seeing how it fits with the chapter's initiatives. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, exactly.
And to add on, I think, and to add on, I think we also play a role in the overall, like I think Kok Fung I mentioned that his job requires him to work with internationally, right, where it goes through with every CPS in ICMS. But like what Joey said, it's that we represent the Malaysian chapter, right? So we try to make sure that every strategy or every policy that comes up, right, is accommodated to our Malaysian demographic. So if a very noticeable difference is that in other chapters, the age of the students, age of associates are also different from in Malaysia, right? In like the UK, you might have younger associates. In Malaysia, it's mostly 3rd years, 2nd years, and this year also we have college students, right? So we have to make sure that the policies that are created aren't just targeted, or the strategies that are created aren't just targeted to one demographic or one set of students, and it's more towards the entire chapter. And then every DNED around in the council will have to make sure that it is suitable for each chapter also, right? Yeah. You think you had a question?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
I mean, you had another question, right? Just after that.
I know. I mean, like just in terms of the strategy itself, because like we did like a long-term strategy and short-term strategy for the rotational tasks. But then, like, do you like directly involve in terms of weekly or bi-weekly checkup, or just like at the end or during the initiation of the strategy? Yeah. So like, who holds the last word of the strategy making?
All right. Joey, I think I take this. Is it okay? Great. Okay, so strategy, right? Because strategy, in a sense, in a broad sense, right, it's applicable to everybody in the council, right? So for each strategy, there has to be a decision-making process where everybody from the exco level as well as the and sometimes the exco level have to agree to it as well. So we are involved in strategy in a sense where we make sure that it's, like I said just now, it's applicable to us. But when it's in the forming stage, right, where it's coming up, if the strategy is something that we created solely for like the Malaysian chapter, then we do try to make sure that it is brought up as soon as possible. Are there any questions?
To Matt, right? To answer your question about who carries less weight policy making, I would say that, you know, are on equal level, because the CPS directors are involved in from day one throughout every single step of the policy forming and all that, towards the execution, towards, you know, implementation and all that. But we start earlier on, whereas we how do I say this? So we start during the initiation phase, and then we sort of follow up as the policy making is in progress. We follow up with that, but then ultimately we don't play a very active role in forming the policies, because that is completely up to CPS. But so that's why we have to trust that our CPS directors will be able to represent Malaysia and has the Malaysian chapter's interest, the best interest at heart. So therefore, I don't see who plays a heavier role, but if you're talking about who plays a more active role, then it would definitely be the CPS directors. But overall, we also carry the same amount of weight, because we have to ensure that, you know, we follow through. We have to ensure that the CPS directors are actually representing Malaysia in the right way. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Like for, if I recall correctly, right, like Matthew mentioned about like the planning involved like 3 phases, which is refinement, engagement, diversity. So I'm just curious, like what did both of you had in mind when y'all came out as a national board to come up with these 3 focuses? Because like there's so many areas that we could possibly focus on. So like why these 3 areas, and what are the areas that actually are concerned when you come to this decision?
All right, Joey, do you want to go from the exco level first? Then I'll bring it down to the exco.
Yeah. So what happened when we first took council was that all the excos, all the national heads, all the divisional exco directors, all of us sat down together with the CED, and we discussed about what were the current, you know, issues with the council, what on our observation on how things are currently run council. So then, as representatives from each chapter, as the national heads, fresh perspective on how things moving forward and how you see certain issues being solved in the next 1 year or in the next few years. Okay.
Sorry, Joey. Could you repeat it?
Where did I go off?
From the start.
Yeah, from the start. Because like it's so laggy, and then yeah. I don't know.
Okay. Can you hear me fine now?
Yeah, now it's fine.
Okay. Sorry. So what I was saying is that in the beginning, sorry, I hear some echo. Yeah. Charlene, can you mute yourself? Okay. So in the beginning, all of us sat down as like a team of excos, and then we looked at all the, you know, issues, and we looked at everybody's own goals for the council moving forward. So then we came up with the idea of wanting to refine our current operations. We wanted to stabilize our current operations. So that's how we came up with refinement, engagement, and diversity. So diversity is a given. It's something that, you know, some of the student organizations from Malaysia strive to, you know, achieve. But with regards to refinement and engagement, those were the 2 things that we felt were in a way not up to par when it transitioned from 6th council to 7th council. So moving forward, as the 7th Council transitioning to the future 8th Council, that's what we wanted to sort of rectify. So our goal this year wasn't to expand or to do anything in that aspect, but it was to stabilize our internal operations. So when you come together as a team to decide on what are the goals you want moving forward as a team, right? Then you look at your own specific agendas. So that's when the national heads will bring their own fresh perspective on how they see their own chapter moving forward. So first, you will set your council agenda together with the national heads. So the national heads will somewhat have a rough idea on how they want their chapter to move forward. Then they pitch that idea to the excos, and then collectively, as all 5 chapters, as all divisions, we set out the main 3 agendas for the entire council. And then after the meeting, you move on to discussing how you're going to bring those 3 agendas and how your own chapter is going to follow through with those 3 agendas. Yeah. So then Matt can take over from there.
Yes. So I think Shirley asked why we chose our refinement, engagement, and diversity rather than all the other strategies that were available, right? Or things that we could have focused on, right? Yeah. So like Joey mentioned just now, when we transitioned from the 6th Council to the 7th Council, there was this, I wouldn't say operational instability, but there were things that could be improved, right? There are always things that could be improved. So refinement was that thing, right? And so before I come down to that strategy, you need to understand that strategy is a very ambiguous thing, where strategy cannot just be focused on one key area. It cannot be in the short run as well. So when we decided on refinement, it was because we noticed that in each aspect of things that we do, there were ways we could improve, and that was why we came out with refinement. Engagement was because I think as over time you will notice that as you have to juggle between ICMS and even your own daily stuff, right? Your studies, your external commitments elsewhere. It's going to be very hard for you to continuously stay engaged and stay as motivated as you were when you were JA, right? So engagement was that one thing where we wanted to make sure that the junior associates that came in with us stayed engaged associates throughout the entire council term, right? And at the same time that they do get, and how that happens is that because they do get the sense of value and the sense of development that they have hoped to achieve from ICMS, right? And then for diversity, it's because ICMS in general is very populated in certain areas of demographics, right? So in Malaysia, it's if you notice, right, there'll be a lot of students from the public universities, and then there'll be a lot of students from certain courses, right, certain backgrounds. So diversity was where you wanted to expand the types of associates that we had, right? So we wanted to increase in terms of racial diversity, in terms of universities, in terms of study background. That's why, in general, when people think about ICMS, a lot of them think that ICMS is a very business focused student association. But then when you look further in, you realize that like Ideal is a biotech student, right? You have Ideal like biotech, you have Julian biotech, then you have students like me who are mechanical engineering students. So it's how we wanted to make sure that all these different studies could use their own way of thinking to further improve council. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Can I ask something? One more question.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
like, because I heard you and Joey just now, you guys mentioned that when you come to this tree, right, it's based on what the past council was lacking. So, like, let's say we were to plan for a new council, right? So, meaning we have to clearly identify what went wrong or what are the loopholes, current ones from the previous council. So, how do you guys come to that kind of understanding? Because to come up with the values, like do you guys consult like the previous council members or directors, associates? So to make sure that it's more relevant. So yeah.
Yes, so for ourselves, right? Yes, Shalin. Yep. Okay, thanks, Jerry. So in our term, what happened was that because we only had two rotational tasks within the chapter itself, and then we had the ICMS Academy rotation. So to find out what was wrong or what could be improved in the council, right, was actually very challenging for us because we've only been in the council for 2 months, right, and we were expected to come up with a strategy for the next 1 year, right, and then hopefully this strategy would further attract more students to, and then it will continuously grow, right. But so it's very difficult for us in a sense where we really couldn't, like, we all came in here to learn, but then now you're telling us that there's something wrong and then we need to further improve on that. So it was a very weird sort of thinking, right? And then, so like what we did was actually we did consult with our predecessors a lot. We had to ask not just like the 6 council associates or the next course. We even had to ask people that were before that, right? Like I said, from the previous councils. And even sometimes when we enter for PNS meetings, we had to then sort of talk to them and then find out what's their standpoint on ICMS and what they saw in us, right? So I think that was the key way of seeing how we could improve. Secondly, it was very easy. Not very easy. We did it through our associates instead. I think before we even decided already, if correct me if I'm wrong, Joey, we made sure that every division brought back these strategies and brought back these ideas to their own, to think of it from their own divisional perspectives, where each division saw it from themselves. And then, like if you're an EUP, right, then you would have to realize that what was lacking from the previous councils and what could be improved. And then if you're from like IIP is very internal based, and then you need to realize really focus on diversity and engagement. These are things, right? Yeah. Yes, that's great.
Yeah. So
any more questions, Shelly?
basically, it was meeting after meeting. It was a lot of going back and forth because you have to ensure that your own team in the chapter knows and actually feels what the 3 agendas should be like on their like from their own perspectives. See how it incorporates in your own chapter, and then as chapter heads, we have to see how it fits with the overall agenda. But before we even finalize the whole agenda, we have to make sure that all directors agree with this. Even we have to include people. We have to include people from ICMS Academy and even for the flagships, because it only makes sense. It's only a more holistic agenda setting if you include all directors that are involved. Everybody who is involved in ICMS should be held accountable for the 3 agendas that we set. So therefore, it was a lot of back and forth. So should you guys apply for directorship, and if you become directors, and once you join a team, you have to expect a whole lot of meetings, a lot of late night calls, a lot of texting, a lot of just confusion taking place, a lot of awkward silences, because you're essentially planning for the next 1 year when you barely even know what you're supposed to do. So that's why we hope that the whole JADP sort of helped you guys understand what each division was supposed to do in the first place, so everybody understands. And when you guys want to come up with agendas for your council and moving forward, right, how you're gonna transition that to the 9th council, hopefully you get a better idea of how the council is supposed to function. So that it's a lot easier. You save a lot of time. So yeah, like you will go back and forth, but hopefully that minimizes the amount of confusion and the amount of time spent on trying to figure out what your 3 agendas are supposed to be. Yeah.
Julie, if you don't mind, right, can I ask that you mentioned we have to align it with the other councils, right? And then at the same time, other chapters, and then we also have to also seek feedbacks from our associates as well. So I'm curious, do you also take into consideration when you plan, right, in the corporate partners? So strategically, do we have to also know about their goals and try to indirectly or subtly align with our whole council's goals? Will that help? As in, yeah.
So the thing is that when you first step into the council, it's very difficult for you to try and gauge or remember or to understand what each external partner and sponsor wants to achieve with ICMS for that term. So you can only know it through your CR directors who have only heard it from their previous CR directors. So there's a lot of trust going on and a lot of communications going on, but we don't actually liaise with partners and sponsors to figure out what they want or what they expect from the council. It's more of, because they're just external partners and sponsors, they're there to sort of support you. How you want your council to run, that's completely up to you. So you can say that, oh, this year I want to expand. And you can only in a way execute it if you're going to pitch it to your partners and sponsors in the right way and you explain it to them. So it's more of trying to get them to understand where we're coming from, more of and lesser of taking what they want from us and then implementing it in our own council, because it's essentially your council. It's not their council. They're just there to support you in whatever way that they can. So when you guys plan, that's why when you step in, let's say when I step in as an NED, I have to consult the 6 councils NED. And then if you step in as a CR director, you have to liaise with your 6 council CR directors. So that's when you have all the history and you sort of have a rough idea about how the current situation is like with regards to our stakeholders. And then you can see it from your own first-person view about how your current council is running in terms of your resources, your associates and all that. Then you plan it together. Yeah. So in a way, we do take it into account, but it's more of like we only take it into account if we know about it. We don't email them asking them what they want from us, that kind of thing, because you simply don't have the time. Yeah.
Because I was concerned, like if in terms of the planning, right, we have to seek their approval or whatnot. No need, right? Like,
no,
it's just
it can't be like, if council we want to expand to 3 chapters, and then you expect them to support that. It's not something that is this outrageous. Gradual, then only you can expect your partners and sponsors to understand where you're coming from and to understand your agendas. Because if not, then it doesn't make sense to them.
And to add on to what Joey is saying, right? Something that all of our PNS said to us was actually that the reason why they actually partner with ICMS, or the reason why they even sponsor ICMS, is because a lot of our PNS are industry leaders, right? They are industry leaders, and the only reason why they had one of the factors that they have become industry leaders is because of the long periods of time that they've been in the industry. So a lot of them have very corporate ways of doing things, and the reason why they partner with ICMS, right, or even sponsor ICMS, is because they want to see how the new generation thinks and how the new generation can improve and further grow, right? So when we come up with the strategies, is really we take that we don't actually take that into consideration, but after a while you do realize that that's one of the things that actually happens. It's where we need to stay true to the fact that we are still millennials, and that we that the reason why they even partner with us is because they want to understand from our point of view, and they want to connect with us in that sense as well. And because they want to bridge that gap between, like, what's a nice word? The older generation and the younger, the gen something, yeah. That's great. Thanks.
One last question, if you don't mind, about this topic, right? Like, so I'm curious, how does the strategic partner actually come into place, like ICAEW? So how do they actually play a role in advising us in the strategies or developments? Or do they, like, at least play a role in this at this stage of like planning, or it's only like further on?
So in that stage of planning, right, there really isn't much that any PNS does. Like what Joey mentioned is that there isn't enough time, because within like 1 or 2 weeks you have to think of the entire strategy. You have to eventually find synergy with your own teammates already within that like short period of time. But how like our strategic partners do help us, like their title, right, is that whenever, cause they've been with us for so long, they've been with us for like 7 councils already. So whenever we need advice on like what happens in the past councils, or like things that happen on how did the old councils deal with it, it's very easy to consult them because they've been here for so long. They know how you run, and like ICW is really one of those partners, right? That it's very easy to just connect with them in a very natural setting, where when you talk to them, it doesn't have to be in the start. It has to be professional, but after you get used to them, it's very easy to just communicate with them in a way that they understand that you're still young, and you can understand that they are trying to be young as well. I need to stop using these words. Yes.
But traditionally, what's saying is that our strategic partner doesn't play as much of an active role as our current 4 partners. ICW, in a way, they're more, they never told that we're going to set for the future council or even for the current council. It's for the best.
Joey, could you repeat your statement from the start? After the 4 partners part. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So I think it's my connection. So it's an active role compared to the partners, right? So it's also because they're more relaxed about everything. So to them, they just support us in whatever decisions that we make because they trust that we are able to write for the next council, and they want to give us that kind of autonomy. You know, they don't believe in trying to control us for their own personal gain or for their own personal agendas. So for them, it's more of like, okay, we're gonna play a strategic partner role, but we're gonna be very passive, and we're gonna trust that your directors know what's best for the council moving forward. So if you're gonna pose a question to them, ask them for advice, they will give you advice, but they won't try and pressure you into choosing one or the other. Yeah. So our strategic partner is ironically not very strategic, but they're just there for extreme support. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
I think Charlene got disengaged. Alita?
Okay, I think I have a couple of follow-up questions as to some of the questions that were raised just now. So I think the very first one was, so you guys talk about your roles in EXCO, but I do understand that you guys do play a part in EXCO as well. So I just want to understand more, how different is the role between when you sit in an EXCO meeting and when you sit in an EXCO meeting? So how different are your role in each meeting or in each operation in general? Second thing is, so you talk about your 3 areas that you guys want to work on, which is red, right? So I just want to know how close are you guys to what you guys set out to achieve compared to where you guys started with. It doesn't need to be at 10, but I just want to know like how far have you guys gone to achieve, or how near are you guys to your end goal. Lastly, my question was on sustainability. So let's talk about sustainability in Malaysia in general. Don't talk about other, although the question was inspired by other chapters, okay? And although the question should be posed to the CD, but I think I just want to ask about like how do you guys see the sustainability for the Malaysia chapter itself? So you look at other chapters, you know, some chapters are like dying but not dying. And to be honest, our portfolios, like for example, our flagship event has been the way it is. Like NPPC has been the way it is since day one, and I2 has always been like that. And because the council is so busy, when you start moving into the council is so busy on just trying to get things moving and just like, you know, just be on the go and do things after this. But how often do you guys have the time to take a step back and to really think of how do you guys want to ensure the sustainability, not just in the operational manner, but also in terms of portfolio? Yep, so that's all.
All right, so okay, so I wrote the questions down in the chat, right? So if any of the questions are wrong when I answer them, just let me know, okay?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so firstly, I think I'll answer the role in the EXCO and NEXCO, right? So in a meeting, right, just the easiest way to look at it, in a meeting, right, in like this sort of meetings, in a NEXCO role, we are there to be second in backup, I would say. So we do let our divisional directors carry out what they are supposed to carry out. So a lot of meetings we have agendas, right? And the agendas will be brought up by specific divisional directors. So like IIP will bring up the fact that, oh, we need to plan for info sessions now. We need to plan for recruitment, according along with Rachel also. So like, then what we do is that we are there to make sure that, firstly, we provide that perspective where we come from we also have the exco's perspective, right? Secondly, we make sure that whatever that is brought up follows with the strategies that we mentioned just now, right? And thirdly is that we make sure that we listen very well, so that when we all these things, right? So that when all these discussions are happening, we can bring it back up to the exco level also, and we can represent it. We can represent the chapter there. Okay. So when I mentioned that, right, in the exco, a lot of the meetings are the same way, where it is headed by divisional directors. But what we do there is like, it's as if we are division directors in a way, so where we represent the entire Malaysia chapter. So in exco level, we get we play sort of like a voting role, and sort of contributing to the decision making. Whereas in the next goal, we our role is more towards making sure that sometimes we do chair meetings, and then sometimes we have to collect every decision and make the decision together with our team. Does that make sense? Okay, so Joey, do you have anything to add for the first question?
I think like an easier way to recap what Matthew has said just now, it's more of like when it's a NEXCO meeting, when it's a chapter specific meeting, we try to become split into two sides, and then you are supposed to be the one party that remains neutral to try and understand where everybody's coming from, and then to sort of conclude the whole decision or the whole voting process. So as we're in a NEXCO meeting, we play the focal point. But when it comes to EXCO meetings, we assist the CED and DCD in becoming the focal point. So we will provide our own inputs, just like how divisional directors would provide their own inputs. And then it will be up to the CED and DCD to hear both sides and to conclude everybody's opinions, consolidate, and then to come up with an actual action plan moving forward. So it depends on what kind of role you're playing. So NEXCOs, we are the focal point, but when it's EXCOs, we aid the CED and DCD in becoming the focal point. Yeah.
So for the second question, right, it was how close are we to achieving our 3 strategies, right? So I think I speak personally for myself, right? Things on my own opinion. So in terms of refinement, we have improved in certain aspects, where what we've done has actually led, not us specifically, but what the chapter has accomplished is that we've innovated in certain methods, in certain ways of doing what we do, right? So we're not the same as what the 6 councils, everything we've done, not everything, but some things that we've done is different from what the 6 councils have done. Okay, and then for engagement, it was, I would say it's actually improved because there was no real target for engagement, where we couldn't make sure that at the end of our term, there was going to be 80% of our associates still engaged, because it was very hard to sort of determine a specific number. But in terms of just generally looking at it, I think we've actually improved a lot from when we first started. So when we first started, there was, you could see that certain older associates, damn it. It was very easy to see that in other councils, like engagement wasn't maintained throughout. Okay, and then it was very easy to notice that naturally, and sometimes like the next goal will be the ones that are more engaged, right? So will be the ones that maintain engaged throughout the entire council term. But I think this year it has improved a lot in a sense where when you attended our induction, right, you will notice that the number of associates that attended was actually a lot. Like the number of associates from the 7th council was actually a lot. And the way we actually achieved this was that it was through personal engagement, where like I think a lot of times there are groups of friends within ICMS, So that really helps you to make sure that people feel the ICMS family sort of bond. And then another one was, I think, a very easy approach that the alumni did was actually, I think Ivan is specific. He made sure that everyone was included. He tried to get everyone included from the start. So when we moved on to now, those bonds that we had from the start already increased until now. Yeah, improved. Diversity-wise, we've definitely improved a lot this year. No doubt, thank goodness. So when it first started, diversity was actually, I think, the number of, like in a very objective way of looking at it, the number of Malays in the council was only around 6, I think, 6 or 5. And this year we've actually increased it to, I think it was 8, right, Joey? 8 or 7.
I mean, yeah. So like the increase wasn't monumental, but comparatively to the number of associates that we have in the 8th council compared to the 7th council, the percentage is a lot bigger. Yeah.
And in terms of like the universities that we've approached as well, this year there have been an increase in public universities rather than just the staying back in the private universities also. Yep. So Joey, do you have anything else to add for Red?
Not much, but mostly it's just that it's the outcome of whatever that we've done for the past 1.5 years with regards to the 3 agendas that we've set. They're not quantifiable and should not ever be quantifiable, because if you're going to propose things like that during your AGM and you're going to, explain that, oh, okay, this year, for example, you're going to follow through with our diversity goal and you're going to have 30 to 40% of non-Chinese and of those who study in public universities or different academic backgrounds. If you're going to promise things like that and you don't follow through, you're essentially digging your own grave, and you're over promising something and you're under delivering. When we set goals, the very specific, so that there's a lot of room for us to contributing to that main goal. So it's good that it's not quantifiable. So, but I would say that like what Matt said, judging from how you see things from a first person point of view, we've definitely been a lot better than how it was previously. So in terms of operations, in terms of how the directors communicate with each other, how we communicate across chapters, as a whole, I think that the whole council and the whole Malaysian team have sort of gotten closer, and in a way we were sort of on track to achieve RED, but it's not to say that we can achieve it 100%, or it's not to say that we achieve 50% of it. It's really not according to those 3 agendas. And I think that we can sort of speak for everyone when we say that we're actually pretty close in achieving our 3 agendas that we set out in the beginning of the year. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, the third question, our sustainability in terms of flagships and chapters, and then how to take a step back to improve, right? So I think like what you mentioned just now, is actually pretty real. What has been happening is that for the last 7 years, a lot of our flagships have maintained the same way, or it has improved, but not in a way where people think, oh wow, it's a totally different thing, right? So what happened this year was that, Joe, is it okay to share the MPPC?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. So like, what happened this year was that MPPC's overall conduct, operations, overall execution wasn't up to the same standard even that it has been in the previous years, right? So it was through a situation like this, right? Then I think it was the entire Exco, and we all sat down and there was a discussion where are we going to change MPPC, revamp it, what was going to happen, right? And it was, I don't think it should be this way, where we need to be sustainable in the sense where each year we continuously try and improve, right? But it shouldn't be through a certain fallback, then only we try to be sustainable. So in terms of how sustainable are we, vision and mission wise, in terms of strategies, we are pretty sustainable, I would say, because what we do provide to students in general is pretty different from what other student bodies provide, where we don't just focus on an example like a specific course, right? We don't just focus on engineering, or we don't just focus on learning about business. We are very diverse. We are very we focus on very technical stuff, and as well we provide you the soft skills, right? So that's where we are differentiated from other organizations. Yeah. And in terms of flagships, I would say it's still sustainable. It's still going to be carried out next year, but it really depends on your council and with the advice of the alumni, how you guys can improve and make it something that's totally different or something that can last for throughout the next few years. Because like MPPC and I2, they are things that brand us already, right? When you talk about these two flagships, people know that, oh yeah, MPPC is the thing by ICMS, right? Or I2 is the thing by ICMS. Yeah. So when you can't actually remove it, the only thing we can do about it is to actually make sure that it is revamped or improved. And I lost my train of thought, Joey.
Basically, if you're talking about sustainability, first what you need to do is split it into two parts. One is the sustainability of chapters, and the other one being the sustainability of the initiatives that we have in the council. So when it comes to MPPC, I2, so if you're going to talk about the sustainability of the current initiatives, that is definitely up to each council how they see that particular initiative moving forward. So it's not something that is determined by the previous chapters, but it's something that the previous councils, but it should be something that the current council takes into consideration when they make the future plans. So like, let's say for them, they feel that longer as relevant as it used to be, not because of the fallback that happened in 7th council, but because maybe your goals for the chapter and for the council moving forward have shifted from what the past 7 years have been like. So therefore, it's up to you whether you want to revamp it or whether you want to take it out. So that's in terms of the sustainability of the initiatives. It's completely up to your council. But of course, before you make major decisions like that, you're going to have to consult basically almost everyone in the council, consult your OPCO team, and then consult the partners and sponsors, because our flagship events are one of the biggest ROIs for the partners and sponsors, because those are the events that, hundreds of students come. Okay, sorry, not hundreds of students, about 100 students come. So it's the amount comparative to the chapter specific events, a huge jump. So before you decide on anything that's this drastic, you have to definitely consult your stakeholders. So sustainability wise for initiatives, it's really up to your directors. It's really up to your whole team and how you feel about it. Maybe you've heard comments about the previous initiatives and you don't think that it's a good thing moving forward, then that's up to you guys to decide. But at the end of the day, you have to take into consideration that your seniors will sort of have a better overview of how things have been like in the past council. So when you want to make decisions like that, you're going to have to sort of accept whatever criticism or whatever advice that's been given to you from any party. So you have to be very open-minded about that. Because sustainability is something that affects everybody. It affects your current council, affects your next councils, and it affects your stakeholders. So when it comes to chapter-specific sustainability, right, I think what happened in the 4th council was that they expanded really quickly to, if I'm not mistaken, to I think Singapore or Hong Kong, and then the North American chapter. So what they did was in 4th council, everything just like spiked. The number of associates spiked, the number of partners and sponsors spiked, the number of chapters spiked. Because I think back then their goal was just to expand. Where at that point in time, their mentality, with their current mentality, they felt that it was necessary to expand. But So, and now the current structure has been passed down, after so many councils. So in a way, it's always up for discussion. So as the 8th council moving forward, if you think that certain chapters are no longer sustainable due to A, B, C, D reasons, then that's something that has to be discussed. And it's also something that you need to consult with your alumni, your seniors, and also your stakeholders. Because things like these major things affect everybody, correct? So, but if you're going to ask only about the sustainability of the Malaysian chapter, then I honestly don't think that it's a problem at all. Because if you think about it, all our partners and sponsors are in Malaysia. It's not that I'm biased towards my own chapter because I'm here in my own chapter, but it's more of like place here physically. We have the capacity to do that. So most of our associates are centralized in a certain region, so it's easier for everybody to come for events, to come for discussions and things like that. So because transport is a lot easier compared to other chapters. Yeah, correct. So, and then our current partners and sponsors, the portfolio, everybody is here. So when you go for meetings, when you attend engagement sessions, they're all here. Then the third thing is that essentially you're going to be targeting Malaysian students. So being in Malaysia, that gives you like an added advantage compared to the rest of the other chapters, whereby when they want to organize an event or any initiative, when they want to attract Malaysian students, it's relatively more difficult because you have to scout for these Malaysian students. Whereas in Malaysia, it's in abundance. So it just depends on how good you're at, how good at marketing you are. So in terms of sustainability, I would think that the Malaysian chapter is pretty safe. Regardless of how many partners and sponsors you have, regardless of how many associates you have, or the number of initiatives you have, the fact that we are the Malaysian chapter, being in the International Council of Malaysian Scholars, and how we've approached the partners and sponsors starting in Malaysia, and how they're all based in Malaysia, it's pretty safe. So if you're going to worry about that, I would think that it's not something you should worry about. But when it comes to other chapters, sorry?
But something we shouldn't take for granted as also because yeah.
It's definitely not something you should take for granted. And being the Malaysian chapter, because you're going to have to meet the partners and sponsors very often. So if anything happens in other chapters, whether it's good or bad, you're going to get it. So in a way, we have an added advantage of being in Malaysia, but there's also a downside to it because you get the end bargain of everything.
The exponential learning curve.
Yeah, but you also get a lot of the indirect criticism, all the scolding. We sort of become the face of ICMS just because we meet the partners and sponsors more often than the rest of the chapters. It's not to say that the Malaysian chapter is the most powerful one or we're the ones that dominate. It's not like that. It's only because we're in home ground and that our outreach is relatively easier because everybody here are Malaysians, and then our partners and sponsors are based in Malaysia. Yeah. So does that answer all three of your questions in here?
Yeah, perfectly good. Do we have time for more? Because I have one follow-up question.
Yeah. We're already here. It's fine.
Okay. Just a question. So you talk about engagement, right? So you talk about at the end of the day, the end goal is not to keep everyone engaged, which I think is perfectly true. So you cannot ensure that. But the question here is, why is the council so big, or why are we taking so many people when we can afford to have dropouts rather than just taking in solely the ones that are committed and just give up the effort on trying to, or at least don't waste time on trying to keep people engaged. So you're already busy enough, so why do you want to spend more time on trying to keep people engaged rather than just taking in the number that you really need to maximize the people in here? So you can keep things running with dropouts, so why not just take lesser?
The thing is that while we're Matt, sorry, do you want to take this?
Sure. Okay, so I think what happened this year was actually we did think like you actually also. This year we changed a lot in a sense where we've taken a number that is a lot lower than last year's because we realized that having too many people, you won't be able to keep, like you said, engagement is a problem. And also everybody doesn't get the same value from ICMS because there's too many people. So this, for the 8th council, right, in your council, we've actually reduced the number of associates. And we, like you mentioned this also, we actually have to but we do have to maintain that we do have to have that safe area, that gray area where if people do want to drop out, at least when they drop out, there is still an operational council where there is still enough resources and manpower for you. So, and also one more thing to take consideration from what I see is that a lot of times the reason why people are disengaged is because of it's either because they lost interest in totally ICMS, which is something that we really can't do unless we change the entire ICMS vision and mission altogether. But another reason is because they really don't have the time for it. So like for me last year, I think even for Ideal now, right, when we're going to apply for, or we applied for our portfolios, right, my portfolio, I was in the midst of my exam. And every time there is something, I'm always in the midst of an exam. So like when you're planning for flagships, I just finished my exams. So when you apply for a portfolio, I just have my exam. So it's really is to really just see that other side of people and to understand from their perspective that maybe they have something on at that time. That's why they are unable to be engaged at that certain time. So like I think a very good example, actually not a very good example, certain associates even in our council term, right? At the start they weren't engaged. Some even dropped out of certain portfolios, some even, but towards the end you realize that they've been contributing in other ways. Where like there was this associate where she dropped out of a certain portfolio or certain role, and then she's now very heavily involved in ICMS Academy in the Management Consulting Hub. So it's really just giving people, you need to accept people, and then you give them the opportunity to the opportunity to just find their own time and find that synergy with everybody else to be engaged one more again. Right, yeah. Joey?
It's more of like, the thing is that disengagement, you can never account for it, or you can never fully prevent it. So like, let's say the number of ideal associates to have for the Malaysian chapter is 20, but then we accept 25. So it gives us that room just in case we have fallouts. But it's not because, okay, so back to your question, why don't we just take in 20 people who we know are committed and we know who are able to stay engaged for the entire council term. But the thing is that, how can you guarantee 100% that every single person that you recruit and that you induct will stay engaged? So that's something that you can never guarantee. So because of this risk, we're going to have to find ways to mitigate it or to reduce it, number that is slightly above what is the ideal number. And the thing is that as much as we want to keep the value of associateship very close-knit and very strong and not diluted for every single person, we also have to bear in mind that in Malaysia, we carry out a ton of events here. A lot of the roundtables are here. Even flagships are here. Partners and sponsors meetings are here. Just basically, in general, most of what's going on in the council happens in Malaysia. So you can't have too few associates who, even though they are, really, really good people who will stay engaged, but at the end of the day, if your manpower, if your resources aren't able to accommodate to what's expected of the council, then that's a setback either way. So the safe thing to do, in our opinion, for every chapter is to come up with an ideal number. So each divisional director will assess how many associates they think that they need in each division. Then collectively you come up as a chapter and you find that ideal number, and then you give and take a little bit. You find that sweet spot or that room where you have the space to where you can afford to have disengaged associates, because of the fact that we can never 100% guarantee that everybody that we choose will stay engaged. So the thing is that the council is really big, which is something that I agree with. I don't think it's the right thing for the council to be this big, because there are a lot of redundancies. But in a lot of chapters, in a lot of the smaller chapters, if you look at it, right, it's actually really necessary for them to have that many associates. So let's say in Malaysia, I think that the number of associates, the size and all that, it's fine, because you need these number of people in each division to be able to have that solid value for associateship in order to carry out events, in order to function as a team. Then you have the Singapore chapter, the really, really small ones. You can't have 5 people in a team, you can't have 10 people in a team, it just doesn't make sense. So this year we have about 16, 17 over there. Then in Hong Kong and in North America, we have about 20 plus. So those are the ideal numbers, just because their associates are all so far away. So when it comes to the smaller chapters, it's okay to have, in a way, more associates than ideal. But I'm just going to be very frank with you. For the UK chapter, when you have 70 associates, that is almost half of the council. That's, if not more than half of the council. That is something that Malaysia should never aspire to be. So as the 8th council, right, please don't have it in your agenda to expand by twice its size, because just don't do that. Even our stakeholders have agreed that we've grown too much. It's come to a point where nobody really knows each other anymore because the council is so big. So when it comes to us, the smaller chapters, it's still okay to maintain the size or to increase by 1 or 2 or to even drop by 1 or 2. But when it comes to the UK chapter, the biggest chapter, what they should ideally do is to reduce the number of associates there, because I feel like there are a lot of redundancy. So think about it, CPS, FD, and CR, these are the 3 divisions that don't have associates, So if we're going to have 70 associates divided by 4 portfolios, that's about, I cannot math this right now, but that's a really high number for each division, So it doesn't make sense. So let's say you want to design a poster for one event. How many events are you going to have in the UK? Are you going to have 15 events for 15 people to design one poster each? It just doesn't make sense, So, but their reason is that because their associates are everywhere in the UK, they need it. They need that number. So there are a lot of things to take into consideration when you want to plan on how many number of associates you should induct in the future councils and how you want to maintain your current engagement level. So at the end of the day, it's really up to you guys how you envision everything moving forward. But with regards to the council size, right, my stance has never changed since the beginning of the term. It was to never expand for now. For the 7th council, we wanted to stabilize internal operations, right? So for the 7th council, we were like, nope, 8th council is not going to expand. So expansion is something that, for me, which I still hold very dearly to, is that it should not happen for the next 1 or 2 councils, because you've grown so much, you've grown to a point where you can't handle your associates anymore. The value for associateship has been diluted so greatly that you're unable to provide very substantial amount of value for each associate. So to me, even if it's for the 8th council or for the 9th council, you should look at maintaining or even reducing. But ultimately, it's up to you guys. It's just our 2 cents on as being seniors and how we see the whole council running for the past 1.5 years.
That was like 100 gig worth of thoughts. But
go away.
Yeah,
does
so
that answer your question? Or going back to Matt?
Yeah, so the final thing that Joey said really is true. So even though even like for Joey and I, when we become alumni, when we are progressing to that stage of life, eventually it's going to be your council who has to decide on what to do, right? And as the NED and DNED, right, if you do apply, you have to represent your country and think for your chapter. So like while we do agree that Joey and I do think that the UK is a bit too big, right? Their stance is that it's because they need operations to run smoothly and they need different associates in different universities, because that's how they organize events there. And that's something that the NED and DNED of their chapter does. They represent the way of thinking that the UK, and then they bring it up to the EXCO. So for us, right, even though it's not good to expand, but if in like maybe like 2 councils time, we do expand even to Johor, and where I did is Penang, and we really do expand, right? You need to justify all your actions and make sure that what you're doing is, like you said just now, it's going to be sustainable in the long run as well. Where you can't just grow and then have associates only during events. you need to have associates that are constantly learning through every opportunity that they get, right? Yep. 1 ringgit 50 cents.
Go away. Go away. That was a terrible joke. Any other questions, guys? Does Rachel have any questions?
She's here to judge me.
Oh wow, thanks for your support.
Whoa. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, okay? I'm just here to see how the sessions are being run.
Okay. But anyway, for the three of you who are here, and with the exclusion of Sia, who we don't know what happened or where he went, do you guys have any other questions?
I think it's not you shouldn't sorry, Shalin, go ahead, Shalin.
Oh, okay. Julie, so like you mentioned about the planning and the overview, right? So can I ask, like as a CED, right? Like, do you have any criteria?
Let me stop you for a while. As much as I wish I was CED, I'm just a DCED. So that there's a difference here.
Sorry, my bad. Like, okay, so like as an ED, right? So, like, what are the criteria that you look for, like to choose, someone, and like what are the expectations that you have? Because like just now you mentioned the expectations, right? Like not expanding, so like maintaining or like reducing the size. So besides that, right? Like, do you have any expectations that the future candidate that you would look for to improve the council as a whole?
Are you asking about DCD or are you asking about NED?
If possible, like both, like your experiences, yeah, and
okay. So when it comes to sorry, I have to mute you. When it comes to really the qualities of a successor, right? What I've come to realize is that you can have like a million candidates who are of high caliber, people who are overachievers, people who are great at what they do. But if they're simply just so busy with every other thing, how do you then expect them to really put ICMS first? How do you expect them to have the time to sit down and to really think about what's best for the council? Yes, you can have people who are really great. That's completely fine. But my stance is that I would rather have someone who has the time and the motivation to stay committed rather than having an individual who thinks that, oh, ICMS is something that I can add to my portfolio amongst like 1,000 other things that I do. So let's say you have two individuals. You have individual A, who is so great, in every aspect, joins every other competition there is there, joins a million clubs, holds 1,000 positions, is everywhere, flying here and there. They have really go away, Matt. That's not you. I'm kidding. Somebody who has a lot of experience in leading a team versus someone who is relatively more new to a leadership role but has the time to really want to learn. I would always choose this individual over this individual because I've noticed that you can be as great as you can be. You can be to your limit, but if you simply don't have the time, ICMS, or even to any student organization out there, in a way, you're not doing the best that you can for that student organization in your role. Because you're just unable to contribute as much as you want to contribute, you cannot on your plate, and you're just unable to go the extra mile because you just really cannot. You don't have the capacity for that. So to me, to choose successors, it would have to be people who I think have the capacity to learn, and the people who know that they have a substantial amount of time to put into ICMS. Because I don't want anyone who is very high caliber, someone who has really high potential but has no time for ICMS. Then that person is essentially just a ticking time bomb because they have so many other things on their plate. So when everything comes together, who then prioritizes what? Because you need your NED, you need your DNED to always be there for ICMS. It's a little bit sad if you want to call it, but you have to be. You just have to be. So if anything goes wrong, you have to be the one who's answerable to everything. But if you simply don't have the time for it, it just doesn't make sense for you to take up that role. So when it comes to DCD, it's the same thing. But in a way, it's a little bit different because your deputies are always supposed to work hand in hand with your chief or with your national director. It's supposed to, like, in a way, the workload is supposed to be the same. Okay, because both of you are the equal people, the equal focal points. But your deputy should always be the one who is supporting your national head or the chief. So because the national head, in a way, has to be the one who's answerable to everything first, the first person people come and look for when everything goes wrong would be the chief and would be the national executive director. So therefore, you would need a great support system to just sort of be there for you at all times, and to be there for you when you cannot be there for the council, you know. So no matter whether you're a deputy or a national director, that are really sought after should be, you know, qualities that include time management and good abilities to really contribute to the council in terms of just giving it their all. So does that, in a way, answer your question? Oh yes, go back
If
to
you
that.
apply for my role, I think it depends. So for another thing that Joey mentioned, I do agree with Joey's points of time management as well as being able to commit to ICMS, right? And contribute to ICMS. When you want to become a director in ICMS, not our role, not just our role, right? It is really important to know whether you yourself believe in what ICMS is. Okay, so when I applied for ICMS, this is my own story, right? My personal story. When I applied for ICMS, I had just finished. I just failed in this organization, this committee, events committee, right? I failed in this committee where I wasn't communicating well enough, where I wasn't doing the role that I was given. So I came into ICMS thinking, really wanting to develop and really to never let this sort of mistake happen again. And it's because of this, I would say it's how I got to this position. It's because I really believed that ICMS was that thing that could make sure I never went through that communication problem again, and at the same time I could benefit from this and in really being a leader, right? So I entered ICMS totally feeling like, hey, I have nothing to lose. I'm just gonna apply for everything and make sure and see what I can get. And that's the type of quality I think you need to be. You need to have also if you want to apply for any directorship role. You need to make sure that what you want to achieve from ICMS is what they can, the council can give you, and what you want to contribute is actually, it doesn't have to be a very technical skill where it's like, sorry Rachel, where it's deciding, or where it's like a certain thing, right? But it has to be it's really, in every director, they all have that one quality where when they see ICMS and they see a role, they know how they can achieve, how they can support ICMS's visions and missions really. It's really just that quality of, I think I heard this from one of our sponsors that day. You need to know yourself before you can even apply for another role. So that's okay. So all in all, my conclusion for myself is that you need to have self-realization. You need to realize what you need and what you don't have, what you need, what you don't have, and then how ICMS can actually help you achieve this. And then when you want to apply also, you don't have to say in a way where, oh yeah, I want to help improve the council, bring it to greater heights. It has to be something that's very personal and very, where we understand that you are truly and genuinely caring about the goals of yourself and both ICMS.
Yeah. Because what we've noticed also is that throughout the entire term, right, there have been people who have been really passionate about ICMS and the whole cause of ICMS from the beginning. And then once they realize that, oh, you know, maybe expectations don't align, unfortunately, the council is unable to provide them the learning curve that they initially anticipated, then that's when they fall out, or they even choose to resign and things like that. It's because they no longer align with your personal goals. So this is why it's very important to understand how the council operates and then to align expectations from the beginning so that your passion stays, ignited and it doesn't start to diminish throughout the 1.5 years, because definitely when you're this engrossed in something, you're definitely gonna go through this phase where you're gonna question, why am I putting so much of time in this, so much of effort? I don't see why I'm still here. But if you are managed, if you manage to actually reflect on your intrinsic motivation for applying for these roles and for staying in these roles in the first place, then that will really help you in a way to sort of survive the council. Yeah, so like what Matthew said, self-actualization is actually really important when you want to apply for roles. You have to know that, let's say, expect the worst from your role and evaluate and see whether you're still able to want to commit despite those circumstances.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
So yeah, Joey, so you mentioned like what you look for in a successor or whatnot. So you see it's versus commitment, right? The choice to prioritize, and also you mentioned like the willingness to commit despite of the circumstances. So like you gave a comparison between like someone who's high caliber and someone who's has many things going on. So based on those two things that you said, right? So what if that high caliber person or has many things going on chooses to make that commitment at that point of time, and chooses to make that sacrifice apart from other commitments? So that kind of sacrifice. So how would you view the kind of situation?
Well, it depends on the kind of sacrifice that's being made, because at the end of the day, ICMS shouldn't be something that's holding you back. So if you're going to have to make so many sacrifices just to take up this role, then I don't know. Then you have to evaluate and see whether it's worth it or not. Whether you're going to maintain the same level of growth and you're actually improving through ICMS, or you're actually giving a lot just to get this role in ICMS. So if you think that it's unfair to do that, then you shouldn't, because you should always prioritize your career aspects and your own personal growth, and then to see if ICMS can help you further achieve those goals. But if you're going to have something that it's holding you back and inhibiting you just because you want to take that role, then it's something that you shouldn't do also. But in terms of sacrifice, how much can you really sacrifice? Let's say if when I apply for NED, I have 5 other roles in 5 different other student organizations. Just because I want to apply for NED, the sacrifice that I'm making is losing, let's say, 4 organizations, keeping 1, and then applying for NED. And then what if do you get what I mean? The level of responsibility you already have is supposed to be tied to whatever current commitment that you have. So when you're going to flake out and when you're going to sacrifice those roles, it also doesn't really show that you are capable of being a very good leader, because it shows that when something better comes along, you're just going to drop this and you're going to just be like, bye guys, I'm going to leave now. I have better opportunities waiting for me, so you're on your own. So that shouldn't be the mentality ever also. So it really depends on the kind of sacrifice. So let's say you're talking about sacrifice in terms of going out with friends, sacrificing your sleep, things like that, then maybe it's fine. But if you're going to be talking about really losing out on some other things, on your other commitments, just because you want to apply for these roles, just because you think that time is good, then it doesn't reflect you as a very good, whole-rounded individual anyway, because you are just leaving your existing team behind for a new team. So I wouldn't think that this person is a good candidate anyway, because it shows that what if let's say there's some other student organization that popped up in Malaysia, all of a sudden has so many partners and sponsors, everything there seems very nice, and maybe you get paid in an organization or everybody gets to travel. Does that mean you're gonna just drop whatever you have in ICMS and join that? So it shouldn't be like that, right? Yeah, you're supposed to make sacrifice for that role, but it shouldn't be a sacrifice where it is detrimental to every other thing. But if you're talking about sleep, sports, then it's normal, it's normal. So just expect that. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it's a very good advice in terms of like choosing what that matters the most, like prioritizing that, and also like considering the consequences that affect others as well. So yeah, I think it's a very helpful advice as well.
I think we can end it soon. So if you guys have any other questions, I think now would be a good time. If not, you can pose it, or you can DM us, or if not, haha, there's the next info session. Hey. But yeah, we should end soon. You guys have been here for 1.5 hours. So any further questions?
Joey, can I ask the last question, or Matthew? Yeah. So like what do you see in what do you hope to see in the Aid Council, as in like improvements or anything that can be materialized?
Okay, so from my point of view, right, when we brought in all of you, right, the new council, we didn't see you guys as assets where you guys were here to create something or to make something happen, right? We brought all of you in because we thought we know you guys have the potential to grow, you have the desire to grow, and you had the commitment and that time for us also. So personally, when I see the council in 1 year's time, right, when I am an alumni, I'm like judging you guys from the outside.
Judging?
Yeah, I'm judging you guys from outside. What I want to see is that all of you have, if you're the NED or the NED, that you have tried to at least make sure that your associates have had the opportunity to grow. So that's one thing that I really want to see. I really want to see the future people that hold our portfolio, even though if we have not done it as well, like super well, but I want to see the next portfolio, the next people in this portfolio really just truly follow the ICMS motto, where when you go for events, you really want to just network. When you go for when people propose ideas to you and you're the NED, you have to be like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, we're gonna try to implement it or something, or try to at least make something happen. I really want to see somebody who is just truly caring about ICMS and the people in it. There's no like you have to come up with like 5 events next year, or you have to come up with like this new system of running ICMS, but it's just really making sure that ICMS stays sustainable and that it stays sustainable by following the same 3 mottos. Or even if you're adapting how the 3 mottos are carried out, it's fine, but as long as you maintain the 3 mottos. Yes. Sorry, there was a Chinese accent halfway through. I didn't know how. Joey?
To me, what I envision for the Aid Council is just for everybody to be as invested in ICMS as the directors, because oftentimes naturally the associates will just care less about the council compared to the directors. It's just normal in any organization that you go to. So, but that's not something that is ideal. It's something that happens, but it's something that shouldn't happen. So what I would really want for the Aid Council is, no matter what portfolio you get into, no matter what roles you're assigned to, I'm hoping to see the Aid Council really stay together, to move forward as a team, to really understand the value that ICMS can bring, and to not be disengaged because of their own personal reasons of not being able to become a director, for example. So I hope that the Aid Council, in a way, really builds on what the Seventh Council has done, because after this term, I think that we've really established good channels for communications. We've sort of refined our operations here and there, our communications with stakeholders. Let's just hope that the Eighth Council your Eighth Council should bring ICMS to a higher level and to not bring it lower in terms of every other thing, in terms of engagement, in terms of stakeholder management, in terms of the bond that you have within each other, in terms of your outreach to the Malaysian students, to the Malaysian community, and the value that you bring back to your own council and for the future councils. So it's really hard to say what I envision for the 8th Council or what I want specifically. But all in all, you know, as leaders, we would want to see the next batch of leaders better than us, always better than us. So if you're able to just capitalize on what the 7th Council has built for you guys, and you're able to bring ICMS to new heights, I would think even though the difference or the improvement isn't really, really big or drastic, or it's not, you know, like monumental, it should still be commended as long as there are improvements being made to be proud of as a council moving forward. So whatever it is that you guys plan to do, whether you are in this portfolio or whether you're in other portfolios or whether you are not applying for a directorship or whether you're just an associate, it really doesn't matter. To me, as long as I see the 8th Council or the Malaysian chapter being a strong team moving forward to achieve the same goals and to continue supporting each other, that to me is the best that I can hope for you guys. Yeah, that's about it.
Thanks.
Anybody else? If not, I think we can end the session here and I'm going to stop the broadcast.
Nope, thank you.
Is that cool? Okay. So once again, we would like to thank you guys for taking the time out for being here. Thanks for all your questions. I think that they would help everybody understand the current situation of how ICMS is like and what are some of the expectations moving forward. So we will see you guys soon. Some of you are attending the event tomorrow, and good luck with your directorship application. We'll see you soon. Bye, guys.
Thank you.